Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside the FLX. I'm Josh Durso, and as always, we are coming to you from the FingerLakes1.com studio in downtown Seneca Falls. We have a very exciting show today as we welcome New York State Senate candidate Floyd Rayburn to the studio. Rayburn is a businessman from Ontario County who has garnered a lot of attention in this really exciting race. Floyd, thanks a lot for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
So, this process has probably seemed like a whirlwind for you because of how much you've been doing and how much you've had to pack into every single minute of your day. But talk to us a little bit about yourself. What are you as the person? Tell us.
Well, I was born in 1955, so yes, that makes me 61 years old. And 1973, I graduated from Bloomfield after growing up on a farm and delivering milk, also house to house. I got into the masonry business and became a laborer, worked my way up in that. In 1981, I went in business. And when I did that, I had a wheelbarrow, a shovel, and a pickup, and my wife and my daughter. 1984, I hired my first employee, and he's still with me today. In 1986, I hired my second employee, and he's also still with me today. Out of the 50-some employees we have right now, I have 27 that have been with me 15 years or longer. Getting involved in this race, I've been politically involved, although I've never run for office before. I've always believed that if you're going to get into politics or get out of business, you've got to know, especially in New York, what legislation is going to affect you and what's going to happen.
Now, that to me sounds like a good chunk of your motivation is you want to see some change happen. What is, or if there were a tipping point or a moment where you said, I have to get involved, what was that motivation?
I think it would be the last Thursday in April, Thursday night, someone announced that they were going to run for the Senate, Senator Nozzolio's seat. When he was stepping down, someone announced, and the next morning I got a call. That night I got a call, and then at 10:30 that night, and then the very next morning I got another call from both businesses from Canandaigua and a firm from Canandaigua, asking me if I would consider running for the New York State Senate seat. And I've always been, people know that I'm very politically involved. Okay, I'm very, very vocal about what we need to do for business to create jobs. And I said, you know what, it's time. My son's moving back. He moved back from South Carolina on July 31st, his birthday, with my grandson and his wife. And he's going into the business, the family business. And I figured, you know what? I see my 1-year-old grandson, and I look at the state of New York right now, and I'm thinking, this is not the way we want to leave. I'm not leaving it. I'm going to do all I can not to leave the state and the state it's in right now to him.
Now, your experience in the private sector obviously is a crucial piece of not only your puzzle, but why voters have been really interested in you as a candidate. What do you take most from your experience in the private sector into this?
When you lay in bed at night and when I first started at three employees, I'm laying in bed thinking, how am I going to make the payroll Friday? How am I going to keep working these guys busy? And then when I get up to 50 employees, laying in bed at night thinking, first of all, I got a schedule. I got to get this job done on schedule if there's liquidated damages, or just keeping the work guys busy so they could feed their families. My name's been on the front of the paycheck. It's never been on the back of the paycheck. Since 1981, my name's on the front, not the back. And I think that's an experience that every politician or legislator, because I don't like the word politician anymore, legislator ought to have done something like this. Because until you don't realize what laws, how they affect business the way business is in New York today.
And there's probably a stack of hundreds of those laws that you can probably think of off the top of your head or that you think about every day.
I could tell you, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I get like that sometimes when I start talking about some of the legislation that's come down. I mean, there's mailers going out against me, mailed by the SRCC, of course, that I shorted my guys $300,000 in pay. And that started the second day of the petition process. I'm saying to myself, are you kidding me? That we alre't even started, and this is already going on. They were worried.
Yeah.
Well, the $300,000 turned out to be $230,000, and it didn't short my guys, and I'll tell you that. I paid them twice. I had to pay them again because of the way the annualization law. And I'm not even going to get into that because I could explain it to you and you still won't understand it because nobody does, but except the legislators. And I've gone down to Albany and they don't understand it. Yeah. So, but it's the only state. We're the only state in the United States that does this.
What is the primary difference, from your perspective, between you and the other GOP candidates that are involved in this race?
Experience with Albany, experience with legislation affecting me personally, my company personally, and my employees personally. Nobody else can say that. Mm-hmm. Plus, there's one other thing. I want everybody to know this. I want 3 2-year terms. I believe there should be term limits. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, it should be 2 3-year terms because I don't think 2 years is long enough. Mm-hmm. I feel like after, if these people are campaigning the day they get elected. Right. Okay? I want 2 3-year terms, but because unless we have a constitutional convention, I don't think that can change. So 3 2-year terms and I'm out. That mm-hmm. means no pension for me. I don't want a pension. Mm-hmm. Every other person running in this race will get a pension of some sort, publicly funded.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that hasn't really been as discussed recently, but was probably the biggest storyline this summer, was a number of candidates getting kicked off the ballot on both sides of the aisle. What was your feeling watching that unfold in front of you in a race that you're actively participating in?
Well, full disclosure, I knew that they were going to try and kick me off. And everybody else that anybody they could, but I heard they were coming after me after what they did so early in the process, and which is why we had 1,500 signatures. Okay, they requires 1,000, and I'm not sure why they would do it, but they kicked off the SRCC and their $1,800 an hour attorneys kicked off Joe Geiger, an Afghan vet. Okay, Bobby Masserini, a businessman, a working man, mm-hmm. and Charlie Evangelista, and the 2 people that kicked him off that fought that signed the petition, and went through the process were 2 people from Canandaigua.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that an area where you feel like there should be change moving in terms of the law, in terms of how it is administered?
You bet. I believe that forget the petition process. Mm-hmm. Completely forget it. You want to run for...
If you want to participate.
You just participate. You're going to spend money. Mm-hmm. If you got the money and you're going to spend it, let the voters decide. Don't disenfranchise all these people that sign those petitions.
No, that's interesting you say that because that has probably been the overwhelming tone of how people feel. They feel as though a big chunk of the population in the 54th district has been unplugged. Is that how you share that?
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah. It's exactly how I feel. I feel, and Joe Geiger, he's endorsed me. Mm-hmm. In fact, he's working with me. Mm-hmm. So, and he's a great young man. He will be a senator, and he'll be in Washington one day. I'm almost sure of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the money that is being
talk
spent
about money?
in this race, if you could talk to us a little bit about how you've had to approach it and how you've seen other candidates approaching the money being thrown into this race.
I think one of the reasons, I feel there's 2 reasons, but the biggest reason I believe they didn't come after me on the petition process is the filing was July 15th. And I put in $187,000 into my account. So they knew that if they were going to come after me and try to knock me off the petition, they were going to have a fight. Mm-hmm. And they didn't come after me. Yep. Other people didn't put any money in, and they knocked them off. Mm-hmm. The money in this race is absurd. Absurd. I mean, in the filings, we've been above board. I filed on time and then this last filing, me and another candidate did our filing on time. It was due last Friday. Mm-hmm. No one else did. Mm-hmm. We get out Tuesday. They got the filing, and I says, "Wait a minute, aren't there's a law here that you have to do it by then?" Mm-hmm. Well, we haven't heard about that. How about the money spent? Mm-hmm. You know what I don't know. I've spent when I'm done here. I think it's going to be over $200,000 that I spent on my own money. And I see other people spending $70,000 this week alone just on TV commercials. Mm-hmm. I see mailings that cost $12,000 to $15,000 each, and I got 3 of those last week, and they're claiming they spent $26,000.
Now, with that, it seems as though in this particular cycle, in this particular race, I've been approached by more people who have said, where is this mailer coming from, or where is that mailer coming from? As one of the targets of some of those mailers, what is your impression, I guess, of the unmarked, and is that something that needs to change specifically?
Without a doubt, yes. It needs to change. I want full disclosure. Everybody should have to put, when you do a TV ad or a radio ad, you have to put paid for by Friends of Floyd Rayburn or paid for by Floyd Rayburn for Senate. Okay? They're not, and on the mailers that I've sent out, it's P.O. Box 60, Canandaigua, New York. Okay, you Google that, it's me.
Yeah.
Down there, you can't find anything. You can't find anything on the other mailings, and I don't know why. I don't know why. There ought to be a law. There ought to be a law so people can see it. And they ought to be able to back up all the information they're putting on that.
Right. Now, one of the things I found fascinating was the actual expense behind the mailers. Tell us about how expensive just one mailer series would be. And I think for the people listening or watching, they're going to kind of be a little bit pulled back by the fact that so many are coming out. That really sheds light on how much money is being spent. Go ahead.
I tell you what, when I first got into this, we're going to do a mailer. We're going to do 8 or 9 mailers. I says, okay. The first mailer cost me almost $20,000. Mailed to 22,000 people. It was a 4-page letter about me. And it was very well done. But so I paid it. Then I changed mailers. But anyway, the next one, all these nice little postcard ones that are all glossy and everything, anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000 to send it to 22,000 prime voters. This is all new to me.
Right.
I'm just writing the check.
Yeah.
Okay. But then I get them with my picture on it, the ones that I didn't mail. They're not very nice pictures of me either. So, but
now,
and I can't find that anywhere on these mailings on disclosures, financial disclosures.
Is that the thing that really reveals the necessity of disclosures within the campaign finance side? Is that the area where people really should see how much money is being spent where along the way and who's providing said money?
They need to see that.
Yep.
They need to see that. Yes, they need to see that. Especially when it's a Senate Republican campaign committee spending the money against a Republican. And I will tell you, as a businessman, I've donated to campaigns, Republican campaigns. Never donated to a Democratic campaign in my life, but I've been accused of that. And we've looked back, and I said, I don't think I have. I really don't. And we can't find anything. But I've been accused of supporting thousands of dollars to Democrats. So
now, how much of that, as the new guy in the political scene right now, how much of that it sort of took you by surprise, or maybe not took you by surprise, but surprised you a little bit in the sense that why are they lobbing completely untrue claims at me?
I'm not surprised. If it would have happened initially right up front, I would have been a little bit surprised. But after I've seen their tactics over the last 2 months or month and a half, I'm not surprised at anything now. Yeah. Nothing surprises me. They don't understand it. I just, the more they do, the more I get hooked in. I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to do all I have to do.
Yeah,
I have to. I want people to know. We have to expose this stuff. It's.
So speaking of exposure and issues and all of that, the things that actually should be important to voters right now, what are your, say, 3 big issues that when you set out to do this, you were like, these are the 3 areas I need to focus?
Number 1 is ethics reform. Okay? I'm going to go 3. I'll name the 3 and then I'll go through each one.
Sure.
Ethics reform, number 1. Number 2, term limits. Which I think 1 and 2. If you did number 2, I think 1 would take care of itself because it wouldn't be any. And number 3, there's more than 3, but the SAFE Act,
Mm-hmm.
defund it. But from what I'm hearing, the governor's the most powerful person in the country. He's the only senator. He's the only governor in the state that he can fund anything he wants to fund with a signing of a pen.
Mm-hmm.
So then at budget time, because I know he brags about having such a great on-time budget for the last 5 years. I don't know how good the budgets were. I would rather have a late budget that was good than an on-time budget that introduced all this new legislation to businesses that's handcuffing them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, at the budget time, I would do all I can to put little things in there to defund, to dissect the SAFE Act.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe they should pay attention to the HIPAA laws. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
with the SAFE Act. Maybe they should pay attention to, like the pistol permit. I'm a lifetime NRA member. I've had a pistol permit since 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in 2018, we're all going to have to go get recertified. And when they retake our when they get the recertification process, I'm not sure many of us are going to get our pistols back.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what once you give them a chance to do that, I don't even know where they're going to get the money to do all this because the state troopers are
Mm-hmm.
They're tied. Their hands are tied for the most part now with what the workload they have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an ethics reform. I would right away do legislation. If you're indicted and convicted as an elected official at any level, 2 years in prison, forfeit your pension for life.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's people that won't sign that, well, there might be a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their closet has some stuff in it that they're a little concerned with.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the bigger issues that we were talking about before we came on here was the heroin epidemic.
Yes.
And I thought you had some really interesting thoughts on how that should be or how it could be better tackled. Walk us through what your approach is or your mindset is on that issue.
In talking to the people that in the social services, in the human health and welfare in the different counties, with what the state's mandating to them,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, this minimum wage thing hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
The mandates that they have, they're closing beds. And I think a lot of this is the mental health portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it's time the state does. I don't think the state has enough knowledge at that level. People in this that are making these laws,
Mm-hmm.
writing this legislation, have enough knowledge at that level. Maybe they need to talk to a few of these physicians, a few of these mental health workers,
Right.
and let them know, get their opinions. I don't think they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That same holds true with the Common Core. How many educators, academias, wrote this Common Core legislation?
Yeah.
Why don't we? It's like Obamacare, the ACA. How many doctors wrote that legislation?
Mm-hmm.
How many hospital administrators were on the board when they wrote to come up with that? We have politicians and attorneys and whatever down there writing legislation that get the people. If you want a bricklayer, come talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to talk to a politician.
Right.
So
Now, one of the sort of reinforced points I think that is clear with you is that you are all about surrounding yourself with the right people.
you have to.
I
have in business.
Yeah, in business and in politics,
You
right?
have to do that. You're only going to. You can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be able to read all these bills because they're going to be 2,000 pages long. I'm sure some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And 1,990 pages of it are probably legal jargon that. This is why you have to surround yourself with people that you trust
Mm-hmm.
and are competent in those areas. And I think I can do that.
Now, in terms of for the average voter, how can business growth best be fostered in the 54th district? Is it we need to focus on certain industries more, or is it that we just need to really start to focus on peeling back the tax layer?
Let's peel back the tax layer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put a moratorium on any new legislation affecting businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, let's get Albany out of the way.
Right.
This is because they think they're the problem. They can fix the problem. Well, they are the problem. They are in this state. We need to keep young people here.
Mm-hmm.
We have a mass excess of people leaving the state. And I talk to employers across it. We want to create jobs, but we've got to have people stay here to fill those jobs.
Right.
people are talking about how I'm in favor of Chuck Schumer's amnesty program. That's one of these ads you're hearing. Believe me, I'm not in favor of anything Chuck Schumer does. Number one. Number two, I am in favor of legal immigration.
Right.
Legal. We're all immigrants.
Yep.
I think I'm a fifth generation here. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is the way this country was built, but it's got to be done legally. The illegals, send them home.
Now, in terms of a more rural district, that's one of the things that has been really heavily discussed with the other candidates. Mm-hmm. I know how to represent a rural district. You've done business in a rural district. You theoretically should be able to do as much for a rural district because you know the private sector. Will it translate? Can you do it?
I'm going to run into a few walls down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to run into a few brick walls, but it's like I told you, I've been a bricklayer for years. I can get around them or go through them if I have to. Mm-hmm. What I would do is, like I said, surround myself with good people. I've talked to 4 different upstate senators. Mm-hmm. that personally we talk, and one was last week. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he wants to sit down and talk to me after this because he says he thinks we can get together. We have to get the upstate people together. And there's some people in the city. I really think some of the assembly people in the city, if you talk to them like humans, okay, and don't force them, you do this, as long as they don't listen to the powers to be in this state and tell them you don't do this, you're not going to get this fire truck, or you're not going to get, that can't happen. Mm-hmm. We have to, and I believe with the right people, I think we can gut the SAFE Act. Mm-hmm. Okay, as far as rural American jobs, there's legislation right now unionizing farms. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know about that. Yep. Well, I've dealt with the unions for the last 30 years too, over 30 years. Mm-hmm. And if they unionize farms, you might better forget about the farming industry in this state.
Mm-hmm. Now, tonight, I believe it is, there is a debate scheduled in Canandaigua.
Yes.
Walk us through what that's going to be all about.
Well, I wish all 5 were going to be there. Mm-hmm. From what I'm hearing, we're going to have 3 or 4. I know the establishment's candidate's not going to be there. Mm-hmm. Originally, it was going to be at FLCC, mm-hmm. but we were told that because of the moderator, that they weren't going to, the establishment candidate, Pam Helming, wasn't going to show up. Mm-hmm. Well, and I was a little, my campaign set this debate up. I called for debates back in the first week in August. Yep. I wanted 6 debates, 1 in each county, with all the candidates, because I feel that gets everybody together, not a meet and greet. We all meet and greet, and they all ask questions, and everybody answers the same question the same way. No, I want a debate where everybody is behind their podium, no scripts. Right. We get up there and they ask you a question, you answer the question. Now, if my name's brought up and someone else, and I get 30 seconds to, just like the presidential debates were here this last, when was it? Last spring.
Yeah.
But because we had Assemblyman Nojay, who's a radio personality and an Assembly Republican,
yep.
moderating, all of a sudden we heard that Pam Helming wasn't coming. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, then we moved it to the Elks Club so Nojay could still be the moderator. And then, I'm not sure who else is not coming, but there'll be at least 3 and probably 4.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is your hope for the 54th District in general as you move forward through the process, but then also after November, after the election's over? What is the underlying hope that you have for the district as a whole?
My hope is to bring more people back. Mm-hmm. And not have the people leave. People want to stay. Mm-hmm. I want to enhance our biggest resource, the number 1 resource in the world. We have more than anybody else right here, and that's fresh water. Okay, and I want to protect that. Mm-hmm. I want to help the wineries. Okay, the Seneca Lake wineries. I've been down there and I've talked to them, and they have a few issues. Mm-hmm. With the DECs and things like that. I want to help our farms and forget the unions. I want to somehow block this minimum wage increase that's going to happen. It's ridiculous. It's going to cost jobs. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's going to cost a lot of jobs because you're going to have an app on your phone when you stop at these fast food restaurants, mm-hmm. and you're not going to talk to people. You're going to hit an app on your phone and talk to the screen and an app on the phone. And forget cash. You're going to have a credit card or a debit card now because they aren't going to take cash anymore because people won't be there. to take it. So and I want to get rid. There's several laws that really inhibit doing business in this state. I want to change workers' comp, the scaffold law, that affects many businesses, and if the people say, well, it's only affecting contractors, that affects everything that's done because the insurance costs to do anything in this state. So when you buy something, you're paying for part of that. Part of that's paying for that workers' comp, and I want to cap the workers' comp attorneys' fees, what they can be, at $20,000.
In other words, make everything more manageable.
Of course, yes.
Now, what is next for you after this debate tonight? What is you guys are in the closing hours now before the primary on Tuesday. What are sort of the last minute preps you guys are running through to get on board?
This is my first and last run at this. And I have to be honest with you, I got to make phone calls. I got to knock on doors. This weekend we at Frank's with Floyd again. Last weekend I was all over the district, Saturday and Sunday, 5 different locations Saturday. We went through 156 hot dogs on Saturday. We went through another 130 hot dogs on Sunday. And that's what we're going to do for Saturday and Sunday this week. It's people have gotten mailers out, Frank's with Floyd, and we're going to start in Manchester. I'm not sure all of them, but they've got the Republican people have them. And please come out, introduce yourself, have a hot dog on me, bottle of water. I don't believe in soda. Okay, bottle of water and a bag of chips. Although the chips aren't any better for you than soda, but that's it. So.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm sure we'll be having you back to talk about this race as it continues to unfold after the primary.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. One last thing, please, people, get out and vote.
Definitely. That's going to do it for us today. I'd like to thank Floyd for stopping by and remind our viewers to get out and vote on Tuesday. If you are a Republican, get out in the primary and rock your right. Inside the FLX airs Sundays at 7 p.m. on Time Warner Cable Channel 12. And, of course, the podcast is always available on iTunes, Stitcher, and the FingerLakes1.com app. For Floyd Rayburn, I'm Josh Durso, reminding you to join us next week on another edition of Inside the FLX.